I'm Earlene Moore, and I want to show you a little quick way to make some boxes that you could use for gifts for Mother's Day, for birthdays, for bridesmaids gifts, etc. I already have a little piece of gum paste or fondant rolled out here. I use fondant because I live in an area where it's super dry. So fondant works for me, but if you need gum paste, you can add some Tylose to it. And I've taken these craft sticks and lined them up to where I can just roll it out to get it the right thickness. So we're there. Then I'm going to take the mold. This is Sue, and it's a pretty little heart shape. So I'm going to imprint with the back, and I need 2 of them. So we'll just cut those apart. And if you go in a little bit and you cut it where you've imprinted, it's okay. There's extra. That back is imprinted a little bit bigger than the actual mold. Okay, now we're going to dust the back of it with cornstarch. And I'm going to roll it a little bit thinner. It's got one spot there that looks too thick to me after I cut it. You know, after you've handled things for a while, sometimes things just feel too thick. Okay, we're going to lay it over the top. I'm not going to press it down on the inside. This is going to be the bottom for the box. So I don't want the inside lace imprint. I just want it to cut it out for me. Gentle, firm pressure. Don't press it too hard or you make the little ridge lay down, and we don't want it to lay down. We want it just to cut through. And if you get tired of rolling, you can just rub it. Rubbing works just as good as rolling it. Okay, so now we have the bottom of our box, and we'll just lay that to the side. Now the top feels too thick. Even rolling it with the craft sticks, it feels too thick. And this is going to have 2 layers on it, so it doesn't need to be that thick. Again, I'm going to dust it on the back side. Lay it over the mold. This time I'm going to press it down inside the mold. Roll it to cut it. You press it down inside that mold to more or less seat it, to keep it from moving around on you. And if you have a couple little places that just don't cut clean, just rub it. That'll take it right off. So you're going to press it down in there really firmly. I have a stencil brush I got at a hobby store. I put tape around it here because this little metal piece kind of cut into my finger, so I put tape there to protect me. And then a rubber band around the bristles to hold them together. And then I just really pound it. Don't be gentle. You want to press that all in those indentions. So you're going to see that pattern begin to come through on the back. If your fondant or gum paste is real thin and you tear a hole in it, don't take it out and throw it away. You just take another little piece of fondant or gum paste, lay over the top of it, make sure it's stuck to it, and just do the same thing. You don't have to redo. Okay, then we want to go around the edges and clean them up. The ones that are pretty symmetrical, you can use both hands. If they're not symmetrical, it's a little harder to make your brain do that. Okay, and you could pull out and up, and that sort of loosens it. Lay it down and roll it out of there. Now, if your detail is not enough, put it right back in there. That center flower, I wanted more than I got. So I put it right back in. Because the detail is so deep, it will seep right back in where it came out, where some of the other molds, if you put it back in, your detail is not so deep and it won't do that. Now see, that flower is nicely raised. So once you've done a few of these, you'll learn when it's got enough detail, when you need to put it back in there and pound it a little bit more. So now we have a top and a bottom for our box. We have to let those dry. Because we have a piece already cut out for us, this is just a long strip that you could use a ruler to cut it. I have a little cutter. I'm not even going to show it to you because you can buy it, and that's not nice. So if you have the PME cutters, or you just have a ruler or whatever, you just need to cut a length. Then I use piping gel or royal icing. And today we've got piping gel, so we're just going to use the piping gel. And I'm just going to put a little bit of piping gel just to make it sticky, about 1/4 of an inch around the edge. You don't want a lot of excess, but you want enough that it's going to stick that edge to your box. And try not to get too messy with it. Okay, now then I'm going to bend this in half because I've got a point down here. So that point, I already have the bend, and that's where I'm going to start. And then just stand it on edge, and I come around to the inside point. I'm going to trim off a little. I may have to trim it a little bit more. That was just a preliminary trim to get the excess out. And this is way too much, so I'll get rid of some of that. You want to lay it right over that piping gel. Just keep adjusting until you get it to where it fits. Make sure you've got about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. This needs to come in just a little. Okay, so I'm going to trim this a little bit more. Bring this over here to meet it, and trim it right there where it's going to meet. Then you just put a little piping gel where those two are going to meet and stick them together. And there's your sides of your box. So you haven't had to have a pattern or a ruler or anything. You just do what it takes to make it meet. So that works. That's the simple one. That's just the little heart one. So now we have to let that totally dry before we can go any further. So I'm going to move that over. This piece, we're going to take a little bit of pearl dust and a flat brush, and I'm just going to brush across the tops just so I get the detail. I don't want to paint the whole thing. I want just the detail painted. If you get too much on your brush, then it's going to go on down inside, but it's not going to bother anybody a lot if you get a little where you're not intending. Okay, so you can kind of see that that makes your detail pop. Okay, so then we're going to let that dry. That's a pearl dust and lemon extract mixed. Okay, now we have a dry top and we have a dry bottom that have been pearl dusted, and they have the little box that's dry. So now I want to make a top. If I put this on there and gave it to somebody and tilted it, it's going to slide off. So we need to make a little piece that goes under here that will fit just inside here to keep it from sliding off. So let me roll out a piece real quick. If you get a little piece of fondant and it's a little too dry, put a little piping gel in it. Put a little Crisco on your hands and a little piping gel in there, and it will just bring it back to life. This doesn't need to be very thick. It needs to be pretty thin. Get some of this excess out of the way. That should be thin enough. Okay, we've got that piece ready to cut out. So now we want to take our little box and put a piece of paper over it and pencil. We're going to take a pencil, let me get some lead here, and we're going to feel kind of where the edge is, and we're just going to do a rubbing. And that rubbing is just to find where the outside edge of that box is. So you're going to go all the way around it just to outline the outside of that box. So I think you kind of get the idea of how to do that. So I've already done that. And so it would look like so. Then take a pair of scissors and you're going to cut in about 1/8 of an inch all the way around it, so that you have a little smaller piece that will fit down inside there. Okay, here's the piece that we have cut out, and we made a little masking tape handle to fit on it. That will fit right down in that box and come right back out because we have a handle on it. But if you turn that upside down, it's not going to fit the same because we just freehand made our little box. So when you put this down on here, you want to remember what the top side is. And if you need to make a mark on it, make an X on it, whatever you need to do, don't go through it, so that you know that that's the top side, because that's important. Okay, then we're just going to cut this out. And I'm, again, where you can't see, and cut it out. Okay, and we know this side is our top side. So we know this has to fit down in here with this side up. So that side has to glue to this because this is the top side here. So our little X glues on here. So we'll put a little piping gel on it. And if I can make it stay still, got cornstarch on our board, so that makes it slick, so it'll move and not just stick to it. But then when we want it to stay still, it still wants to slide around. We only want just enough to make it sticky. We don't want excess, because if you have excess on there, then it's going to slide around. So then we're going to take this and put it right in the center of our top, X side down. So now when we put the lid on our little box, that should fit right inside that heart. And now if you tilt it, it's not going to fall off. Okay? So it doesn't fit tight, but it fits close enough that it keeps it from falling off. So now you could put jelly beans in there, or red hots, or the little hearts for Valentine's, or one of the cake decorators sells these to the brides, and she tells them, instead of putting the charms for the brides in the border of the cake, let's make these little boxes and set them around the cake, and each bridesmaid gets a little box, and inside is a little pearl bracelet you've made on the elastic thread with the charm on it. And so they have a little keepsake box that they can put on the shelf, or they can eat it. Doesn't matter. Okay? This little box is made from the Rebecca mold. And it's done the same way, except you see your shape on the inside has to be a little bit different. And the shape in your lid has to fit on the inside. And it was done the same way with the rubbing to make it fit inside. It was airbrushed, and then I put a little bit of the glitter disco dust stuff on it because I think most people are not going to eat it. And then the little sequins that are on it were rice paper that I airbrushed and also dusted with a little bit of the glitter stuff. And the gold was done just exactly like the pearl dust, just brushing it over the tops. Okay, so any of the lace molds that have that nice shape, the Peggy mold, the Mary mold is a little triangle. There's a multitude of them that you can use to make these little boxes. Okay. If you have just a round cutter and you want to do the same thing, the bottom cutter, I cut two, one for the bottom, one for the top, and then 2 sizes down cutter, I take and dust the strip that goes around it and wrap it around that inside cutter, and I put it right on there with that cutter. And then when I go to cut the top that fits in there, that's cut with that same cutter. So then this is the new little Kathy mold, and it's on top of some sugar dress on top of that mold, and this is just some of the CK pearls. I actually cut 2 thin pieces and then left the straight piece on the CK pearl and just made a sandwich out of that. Okay, so whatever size cutters you've got, whether they're oval, round, or whatever, you can take any of the small pieces or you can take elements from the other molds. This is the new Sharon mold, and because this is all inedible sparkly stuff, I made this from Makin's clay, and this is the Makin's clay. So you could make these for keepsakes. For a senior in high school, you're giving her a pair of earrings or something like that, then you can make her a little box to keep them in. The same thing you could do for the bridesmaids. I think you could make at least 2 of these, maybe 3 out of this one package of clay, and it's like $4.99 for the package. So it feels like gum paste, it's just real firm gum paste. And you use water to soften it down, but if you add much water, it's going to shrink more. And it's air dry, so you don't have to bake it or anything. Okay, have fun with it.